Hello, I am Gary, otherwise known as Monkey Groove the Bookbeard, and I am coming to you from somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. Today I want to talk to you about the book Grim Lovelies by Megan Shepherd. This is a urban fantasy set in Paris and the surrounding countryside, and the story follows Anouk and her friends Cricket and Beau. All three of these are actually beasties, or animals that are turned into humans. With the death of the witch that created them, they have 3 days to find a way to extend the spell, otherwise they revert back into their animals' forms. To do this, they have to navigate the complicated politics of the world of witches, which is something that is a lot easier said than done. Overall, I thought this was a really good book. It's a fun story. The characters were really interesting. The world in which it takes place is a very creative world. I loved the magic system that Shepherd came up with, and I enjoyed the world that the witches inhabited. Although I will say that the politics of the world was a little bit complicated, and I didn't quite understand how everything fell into place. But of course, the book is told from Anouk's point of view, and she's very young. She's only been a human for about a year, and she was sheltered that entire time, so she obviously doesn't understand a whole lot about the world either. So it makes sense, I guess, that coming from her point of view, things can be a little confusing. One thing I really liked about the book was the fact that Shepherd has a good understanding of French culture. It's one thing to set your book in France, it's another thing to actually understand French culture. One of the things that really stood out about this to me was the fact that Beau constantly refers to Anouk as cabbage. Now, on first blush, this just sounds like a cute term of endearment, maybe a little bit of teasing, but if you know French and French culture, then you know that there is actually a French term of endearment, which is mon petit chou, which actually translates to my little cabbage. So little things like that shows that Megan Shepherd actually has a larger grasp of French culture, which really makes the real world aspects of the story make a lot more sense. I really enjoyed this book. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's looking for something a little different in YA urban fantasy. It is the first book in a series, so even though while I found the ending of the book to be very satisfying, it definitely left me wanting more, and knowing that there will be a second book coming out soon, I believe sometime next year, that does build some anticipation. So here are the pros of the book. I thought it was a great original world. I thought the characters were very compelling. I found myself rooting for Anouk and her friends. And I thought the magic system was really great. Anytime you get into a fantasy book, the magic system is really important. And I thought that this had a good one. The cons, like I said, some of the aspects of the politics of the world were a little confusing. But then again, we are seeing this through Anouk's eyes, which could explain why they were presented that way. The other thing was really only Anouk shows any kind of character growth. As you read a story, you want to see the characters grow and mature. You want to see the events affect them and promote change within their lives. And really only Anouk demonstrates this. She is very much a different person by the end of the book than she was at the beginning. Now, granted, she had the most to grow. She started out in the smallest possible place, and she had the most amount of growth to accomplish, and it was also her story. And we did see a little bit of growth from some of the other characters, but not a whole lot. But overall, I found this to be a really enjoyable book. I would definitely recommend reading it if you're into urban fantasy. And overall, I would give this book a 4.5 out of 5 and definitely recommend it. This is my first video for BookTube, and so I thought I would give you just a moment to tell you a little bit about myself and what you can expect. I will probably do the newbie tag at some point in the near future. I love reading. Recently just got back into reading very heavily. I also enjoy writing. I've got some stories that I'm working on in the past, so very much the cliched BookTube thing. I'm a reader and a writer. I don't read a lot of YA. I've probably read more YA in the last few months than I've read in the last several years. I do read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, but usually more of the adult-oriented version. I also read a lot of nonfiction, so expect to see reviews of both fiction and nonfiction books on this channel. Also, I don't read a lot of physical books. For me, it's just far more convenient to read ebooks, so pretty much all of my reading is done through either my phone on the Kindle app or through a Kindle Paperwhite. So I probably won't be coming to you with huge stacks of books from book hauls to talk about, but we'll find ways to get around that. Also, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she is going to be doing some book reviews of the books that she's reading. So we'll have those on the channel as well. So if you're kind of curious of what's going on in the children's book world, we'll look at that as well. Also, I tend to be on kind of a budget, so I don't always get the big new releases, but I will be reviewing a lot of other books that I find interesting. And so if you're like me and on a budget and wanting to have some ideas of books you can buy without having to shell out, the $15, $20 for a brand new book. I do a lot of reading through Prime Reading and Kindle Unlimited, which are ways that you can pick up books for free. I also highly recommend using the library as a way to find new books. So if you've read Grim Lovelies, let me know what you think about it in the comments. If there's any books you would like to recommend me check out, you can do that as well. I also have, in the notes, I'll have links to ways you can find me on social media. Well, thank you all for watching. Keep reading. Have a good day. Don't forget to click the bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video.